Well, welcome back, and let's start drawing the real stuff. So, why is this figure drawing for cartoon characters? Because cartoon characters are easy to draw, and also they have an anatomy that is very similar to a human drawing. Although their proportions are a little bit different than the real human, they have almost the same rules, the same principles of the anatomy, and it's much easier and forgiving to start drawing figures which are cartoon characters than real figures, human figures, because you can be slightly off proportions with human beings and it is noticeable, and this can seem very discouraging to you to continue drawing. And practice makes perfect is valid here too. But this lecture is for you to encourage you to start drawing figures and also help you in the process of drawing your cartoon characters, whatever you want to do, a book or an illustration, or just practice drawing. So that's why I'm going to start here by drawing a character for a figure of a little boy, and I'm always starting with the head. This is a little bit an exercise that is going forth and back, drawing one part of the body, continuing with the other. And a cartoony character of a little boy, they usually have large heads because cartoon character, they look like kids, and kids have larger heads in comparison to their bodies. That's why they look cute. But that doesn't apply only to humans, it applies also to animals. That's why cartoon characters and animals, they look often like kids. So I'm going to start by drawing a large head, and I want to follow me here in this exercise. And here we have use of the lines and the spheres we did in the warm-up lecture. So you see, I am drawing this sphere over and over again. The lines are very loose, very light, but there is a thickness shaping for the head for a sphere that will later lead us to finalize it with a black pencil. So this is our head. Now let's design the body. And I want the body to be rather small in comparison to the head for this little boy. So I'm going to draw another sphere right under the body. And here it is time to just draw a line. I'm going to draw a body that is straight forward towards us. So I'm going to draw a line that goes straight down, and this is the middle of our character. So everything on both sides will be symmetrical. That will help us a little bit, guide us into where everything is going to be. So I'm going to draw the body, which is slightly smaller. And here I'm going to start aiming to where the legs are. And I want the legs to be not as long, slightly smaller. So I'm going to say with just lines. And you see here comes a curvy lines, the lines that we did very softly. And here are going to be the feet. Now, these proportions, how did I come up with these proportions? I want the boy to look like, kind of like a human boy. And talking about proportions here, I'm going to tell you a little bit about measurements. Don't get too confused, because these things in cartoony characters changes, but for the perfect proportions, for some boy like a hero boy or something, we want him to look as well proportionate as possible. So not to have two legs that are too big, or we just want him to look cute, basically. So one thing is that to have a proportional body, our upper leg, if you bend it, it will go around to where the shoulders are. So this part and this part are kind of similar, approximately. This is not an exact thing. And the upper part of the leg usually is the same size as the lower part of the leg. So these proportions here, even though they are very minimized as a human proportions, they are equivalent to the proportions of a body of a human being. Another thing now that we can take into consideration, let's line up the knees here. So now we have discovered the knees, and put a small sphere where the knees are, and here are the feet. And now we have two proportions, and let's go ahead and place two lines where the shoulders are. So the shoulders are approximately here because we measured this length to this length. And now let's measure where are the hips. And here we have to imagine a little bit because the body continues right here, right? But our legs, if you think about anatomy, our legs continue and join the hips where our buttocks is on the other part. And the buttocks is not just straight to the hips, you know, there is a flesh and muscles underneath if we go into too complex explanation. But we draw these two lines, and they are going to be the hip line, and here is also symmetrical. This point is symmetrical to this one according to this line. That's why we found this symmetry. So here we have some things figured out, and we have the spine here. Now, how do we find where the arms are? And another thing of human anatomy is the elbow usually is on the line. If we draw a line from where the waist is, now our boy will not have a proper waist because we are going to round this up like a round body. But we assume that the waist of the boy is here, like the waist is approximately where your belly button is. So if we say like the belly button is over here, a little bit lower than the waist, then the waist comes approximately here. And so that way we can mark that the elbows of our boy are going to be here. Just draw small dots or balls. Okay, so now we can draw an upper arm from the shoulders, coming from the shoulders. You know, our arms are connected to the shoulders. They are not coming from the head, like we as a beginners usually draw the arms coming from the head. They do not. So let's measure this proportion now. How do we find the lower part of the arm? It's the same thing like the legs. The upper part of an arm is equal to the lower part of the arm. So if you measure your upper part here, and it's going to be, and if you take that measurement over here, this is going to be the lower part of the boy's arm. And again, draw a line through this point where which you already found to find the other part of the arm here. And you add a palm here. Usually a human palm is equal to the human face. But you see that that's going to be really weird if we draw a huge hand here. So another measurement to figure out is that when a person is standing, the palm adds approximately in the middle of the leg, like that. So I'm going to draw another line here for the arm and connect it to the other side. So now we have the measurements of our boy, starting with having a huge head, having a smaller body, and applying the principles of anatomy of a real human to a cartoon character to kind of balance out the proportions. So now let's go ahead and actually design this design. And now it's really easy because we have these proportions here. And let's start with also designing the face. So we have the middle line here of the boy, and why I do this middle line here and not in the middle of the face? Because kids have larger heads and their face in comparison looks smaller. And the more the kids grow, the more this part of the head, it goes up and the face takes the whole place and the head becomes a little bit more proportional. And that's how you actually can design kids from different ages. So this boy, I assume, is approximately 7 years old, 6, 7 years old. So that's why I brought this line of the nose a little bit higher up. I want him to look a little older. If I wanted him to look like a baby, well, maybe I would have drawn this line even lower down and draw his nose over here approximately and have all this part being cheeks and eyes being over here and have this large head like a baby. But I've aged him a little bit just by bringing the nose, the part of the face, a little bit higher up and still keep him pretty young, a 6, 7 years old boy. So now let's find the mouth. And the mouth here is depending on how proportionate I want this boy to be. I can now see the cheeks over here. I can mark them with an ellipse shape on each part if you want to. This is your kitchen, so you're allowed to draw and mess up your drawing and move parts up and down. And that's why I'm telling you it's very important to draw with a whole hand like that, so you don't have very, very thick lines that later on it's gonna be difficult to move up and down because your perception, your eyes will draw you to where the thick line is. So just delay the thickness of the arm until you see, you know that the character you're designing is something of your liking. So I'm going to draw his mouth rather here, so closer to the nose. And here is really about proportions. Usually the mouth of a real person is very close to the nose, so approximately here. And this boy have a smaller chin. So usually the proportions from the nose to the mouth to the chin is equal in a real person. But because this is cartoon character, we can push it up, push the mouth up, design a larger chin, and have the boy have this small little face that will keep him young at age. Because if we designed proper proportions, it's going to be looking like a more grown-up boy. So squeeze the face in to keep the age of your character younger. Now let's draw the eyes, and the eyebrows are approximately here because we want the face to be around this area, very close together. So I'm going to draw the two eyes, large eyes, because kids have large eyes. And if we draw characters with large eyes, much larger than they actually are, exaggerate them, they that makes them look cartoony because they look cute. And now let's draw the pupils. And usually when we draw cartoony characters, the pupils are slightly cross-eyed, but they are actually looking straight forward when we draw the ready characters, because babies have these features. They have crossed-eyed features. They look like their pupils are closer in face, and That's why when we draw that for our character, the character looks young and cute. And let's round up the mouth here, a very tiny mouth. And now draw another sphere just in the middle line, the middle of this line, and on top of the lips to actually find the structure of the lips. And now let's have our eyebrows. Now we drew the eyes larger, so we said these are going to be the eyebrows. And this is also another design. In the with the face, you have a little bit more freedom to design it. So I'm going to push the eyebrows a little higher up, and so you can follow me with that. And you can change the position of your eyebrows. You can draw exactly the same character and move the features around, up and down, move this line. As long as you have this structure, it's going to be easy for you to play with this character and see what kind of a character design you get. And now I'm going to just draw the hair, and one chunk of a hair is falling down his face. Another chunk of a hair is kind of shaping this face, and I'm going to even exceed the line of the head. You know that our hair is not staying on or exactly on the scalp, it has some kind of volume. So I'm going to exceed that volume here and have this hair line over here, and also on the other side. Notice again the lines that I draw. And now the ears here, the ears are also aligned with the nose. The lower part of the ear in a human figure is aligned with the nose. So having the ears kind of anatomically correct to a real person, even though they are much farther out, is also giving a right proportion for our character. So basically, cartoony character is just tricking some proportions, keeping some proportions as they are in a human body to keep it balanced and to keep it looking good. So let's define our character with a head like that, a small neck. And now how do we have the arms here? We are going to continue these shoulders, and we are going to make sausages. So just draw a shape on top of the line, another shape on top of this line, and here like an ellipse, and a sphere on the arms. This is the easiest way to kind of dress up the flesh of your character. And here as well on the legs, just connecting this part of the joints with the other part. And this is also going to be refined later on. This is still a placeholder for your character. And here you can have the feet being kind of proportional, and have another sphere for the feet. And the feet usually is almost like half of this space, half of the foreleg. But I've extended them a little bit here because, again, like puppies and kittens, they have big paws. And if you give a guy or a character big feet, or they will look more childish. And that's what we want. We want to accomplish this kind of look. So here we have the first structure of our character. Let's go ahead and define our character in the next lecture.